Those eyes are unmistakable. Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 261 is finally here, and as I said in the spoilers and leaks coverage, we will get into more details about the major parts of the story. Starting from who in the world is the spirit Sukuna saw in the middle of his domain expansion to why Satoru Gojo has Kenjaku marks in his head, I will add every bit of detail I can include in the explanation while telling the story of Yuta's ultimate takeover. Because in this episode, things will take a turn to a route almost no one has expected. Before we start, hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon to be updated with more content from the channel. With that being said, let's dive into Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 261, the decisive battle in the uninhabited, demon-infested Shinjuku, Part 34. The chapter begins with Yuji breaking Sukuna's heart. Enraged, he growls and screams loudly while tearing off Sukuna's chest. Yuji still remembers his wish to pay back his big brother Choso, who sacrificed his life to save him. This page alone has a big emotional impact since, if you remember in Chapter 259, Yuji has lost all his motivation. He convinced himself that he was a cog in the machine, but even that desperate effort to trick his mind is a mere dust to the scorched earth that fell upon his eyes. That's why Yuji can't stop thinking about his deceased brother, and just resorts to using that emotion as fuel to ignite his rage and put an end to the King of Curses. But despite the curse technique burnout and all the debuffs that Sukuna suffers from, he still manages to chant the words, domain expansion. There was a debate last time with some of the fans arguing that the one who tried to expand a domain was Yuji and not Sukuna. That sounds interesting since we haven't seen Yuji's domain expansion yet. Or maybe he is really able to do one in his current state. That said, all of the clues point to Sukuna as the character who recites the chant. First, there is the hand sign. Secondly, there's also the narrator's narration about Sukuna recovering a glimmer of his burnt-out curse technique to utilize his domain expansion. The chapter continues with Sukuna activating the malevolent shrine. But as the previous chapter said, Sukuna stops for a moment because what he sees behind the blurry smoke is the figure of the strongest sorcerer. Satoru Gojo has returned. That said, is this man really Gojo? I mentioned 3 theories in my last review video, and so far only one of them is invalidated by Gegi's confirmation of Gojo's reappearance. There are now 2 available routes that this series may take. Is this guy Takaba, or did Shoko manage to heal Gojo and possibly resurrect his departed life? You'll find out the right answer in a minute, so keep on watching. Sukuna is in disbelief, unable to force himself into believing that the sorcerer who can exorcise him right here and there is still alive. He pushes Yuji away in panic and watches the arrival of the goat, processing the information in his mind. In the end, Sukuna concludes that there is no way Gojo will come back. After all, Gojo has lived a satisfactory life, and even though we are excited to see the white-haired king back, there's no denying that his story ended in a way that harbored no regrets. Let's cut to the chase, though. After sending Yuji away and creating a safe distance, Sukuna realizes who is the one behind Gojo's actual moving body. He smirked, laughing at how absurd it was, as Sukuna suddenly addressed Gojo as Yuta. Sukuna apologizes for underestimating Yuta as he didn't expect that he was a guy who could go to such lengths just to defeat him. Sukuna didn't call him Kenjaku despite the marks on his head, which is mysterious, but I will explain why in a few minutes. Honestly, I think this revelation is the main part of the latest chapter since everything revolves around how in the freaking world is Yuta occupying Gojo's body. Why is Satoru not split in half like we last saw him back in Chapter 236? Lastly, why is it Yuta and not Kenjaku despite the evident scars on Gojo's forehead? Okay, I know you have valuable speculations, so let's move on to the following parts of the story. The scene shifts into a flashback depicting Maki, Hakari, and the others in the middle of a strategy meeting. Yuta is standing alone in front of all of them, saying that he has now decided to have Rika devour Kenjaku and copy his innate technique. This will allow him to switch his body with another person. Maki is against this plan since she's worried about Yuta, She even pops the most concerning question because Maki is wondering what will happen to Yuta after Rika's full manifestation expires in 5 minutes. Mei will state 3 possibilities as to whether Yuta will perish in the process, so look forward to that. For now, I want to emphasize what Yuta has just said because I don't want to miss it. Specifically, this paraphrase statement from Panda: if Satoru loses, Rika can eat Kenjaku and copy his body hopping ability, which would let Yuta take over Satoru's body and re-enter the fight. If you remember, in Chapter 243, Yuta sneaked a surprise attack on Kenjaku thanks to the opening Takaba made. Kenjaku became a talking head and plotted something nasty while stating that his will would be passed on. However, Chapter 249 pretty much confirmed Kenjaku's demise. Well, while a black something, that arguably might be the merger, is carrying Kenjaku, Yuta eventually pierces Kenjaku's head with a katana and delivers the finishing blow, or at least that's what it looks like. We were unsure what happened after that, but things are different now because Yuta's words proved that he captured Kenjaku's brain. Moreover, Rika has successfully consumed it. Back to Chapter 261. Kusakabe wonders if it's possible for Yuta to simply copy Limitless from Gojo's lifeless body. Shoko states it would be pointless because one cannot use Limitless without the 6 eyes. Moreover, the 6 eyes are a trait, not a technique, so they cannot be copied. Therefore, Yuta needs to proceed with this risky idea despite being unsure if he will survive. According to Mei, there are 3 possible futures to consider before Yuta starts with the plan. First, if Kenjaku's ability requires constant activation, Yuta won't be able to maintain his body and soul and will perish. Second, suppose Kenjaku's ability is activated intermittently. In that case, Yuta won't die immediately, but it is only a matter of time before he does so. Lastly, and this is the only slightly fortunate one so far if the technique is single use and must only be activated once, Yuta can use limitless sorcery even after the 5 minutes. In addition, once the transfer between the bodies has been completed, Yuta's original body might be discarded, and he'll have to live inside Gojo permanently. With that being said, Yuta taking over Gojo can only be considered as a last resort. Yuta is aware of this fact, but reassures everyone that he can still use the copied techniques inside his domain even without Rika's full manifestation. Yuta suggests that they must fight Sukuna inside his domain first, and only if they can't win in that condition will Rika eat Kenjaku, copy his innate technique, and ultimately control Gojo's body. We are already past that point since Yuta's battle with Sukuna ended in Chapter 251. If you remember, Yuta used the maximum output of Jacob's ladder, allowing Yuji to smash the gap between Sukuna and Megumi's soul. Megumi refused to wake up, so the plan failed, and the King of Curses struck Yuta with the scale of the dragon, recoil, and twin meteors. The attack cut Yuta in half, signaling the failure of the initial plan to defeat the King of Curses inside the domain. You'll see what exactly occurred to Yuta's body later in the video, so make sure to stick to the end. Still, as stated earlier, if they happen to lose in that stage, Yuta must proceed with the plan. However, Maki looks displeased. She doesn't want this whole conversation to continue, as if she already agreed to it. Suddenly, Yuta tells everyone that he is feeling pretty ticked off. All the sorcerers in the meeting were like, "What?" Even so, Yuta is determined to proceed despite Kusakabe saying that the plan is inhumane. Irritated, Yuta wonders what it is like to consider his human being. Is that really needed? Various questions pop into his mind. Do they realize that the one they are fighting against is the strongest sorcerer in history? If they can throw away their humanity to win, shouldn't they do it without hesitation? Yuta then asks, "Does becoming a monster scare you that badly?" Of course, Inumaki, especially Maki, is just worried because Yuta is important to them. Unfortunately, Yuta wouldn't take their disagreement as an answer. He doesn't like Gojo suffering alone by becoming the only monster. The expressions on everyone's faces revolve around being shocked or serious, as if realizing how heavy the load Gojo is carrying is on his shoulders. After all, when Gojo perishes, someone else must take the role of the monster, And if no one else is willing to do it, Yuta is determined to become one. Man, somehow, scenes like this are rare in this series. Gojo is arguably the strongest sorcerer, so no one else has really thought of filling his role once he leaves the world. Well, it turns out that Gojo is perfectly fine with Yuta conquering his body since he doesn't intend to lose, and has never really cared what would happen to his lifeless remains in case of defeat. It seems like he's quite annoyed that Shoko wasn't against the plan though, considering that they have known each other for a long time. Nonetheless, their conversation leads us to the next part of the discussion. Does Yuta have Fujiwara blood in him, or is he from the Sugawara clan like what Gojo mentioned in the past? Considering that these two families are at odds with each other, Gojo is sure that Yuta is from Sugawara and they are distant relatives. I guess Uro told Yuta in chapter 176 that he belongs in the Fujiwara clan merely based on baseless assumptions. To be specific, Yuta and Uro are getting on each other's nerves because the former can't understand why the latter is making efforts just for herself and not for somebody like friends, lovers, or family. That alone causes Uro to assume that Yuta is a Fujiwara. Now, I won't dive deeper into this part because even Gojo thinks it's possible that both beliefs might be correct. Moving on, the students refuse to leave even when Gojo makes it clear that he doesn't actually intend to show Yuta and the others a gruesome scene. I assume this is the event minutes or hours before the showdown against Sukuna, since Gojo mentioned that he was unsure if his brutal plan was the right way to do things. He assures the students that if he loses to Sukuna, Gakuganji will stand at the top of the sorcery headquarters. Hence, it's less likely that an incident after Shibuya will happen again. After all, it is confirmed that Gojo really ended the lives of the higher-ups. Yuta stubbornly refuses to go away. He reminds his teacher not to try and become a lone monster again. However, Gojo simply replies nothing as he enters the room, thinking to himself that it's impossible to accept Yuta's request. Above all, he needs to catch up to Geto and become a monster of equal stature, considering that Geto left him behind in that aspect. The scene shifts to Amai and the revelation of his cursed technique. If my memory serves correctly, I think we last saw Amai in chapter 163. He is a participant in the culling games and was Yuji's acquaintance back in their middle school days. On this page, we got a closer look at Amai's cursed technique. In essence, he can amplify the amount of sugar in himself and manifest it in some way. In this flashback, Shoko asks Amai if he can transfer sugar to other people. Amai immediately says yes. This results in Shoko putting him in the medic squad with Nita as a support. His task is to administer sugar to supplement the brain during someone's cursed technique activation. With this role, Amai will play a crucial part in the upcoming operations. Of course, we will know who his patient will be in a minute, since the next events will explain what exactly happened to Yuta after Sukuna slashes him. With that being said, treat the following scenes as the continuation of chapter 251. In the medic room, Yuta lies on a patient bed. His body is covered in red, and the injuries are so grave that even his own reversed curse technique combined with Nita's ability proves to be insufficient to heal him. Yuta says that the only thing keeping his consciousness is Rika's existence. However, that also has its limits. Therefore, Yuta tells Shoko that he wants to proceed with the body swapping, as mentioned in the flashback earlier. Rather, Shoko thinks that they must do it now since they have no other options to save Yuta's life. She has already finished stitching Gojo's body, which was split in half during the battle against Sukuna. Yuta apparently just needs to go full throttle with the reversed curse technique to finish the swapping treatment. This is where Amai is required to step up. With his ability, he must supply sugar to Yuta's brain to boost the process of the maximum output reversed curse technique. The flashback ends with Yuta raising his right hand. He says, "I'm sorry I had to move you to my right," as he produces cursed energy and begins the swap. Domain expansion. With similar hand signs, Sukuna and Yuta expand their domain at the same time. The narrator pops a question wondering, how does one counter Sukuna's open barrier domain? By Gojo Satoru's hands, the solution is revealed yet again. On the final page, Gojo's unlimited void and Sukuna's malevolent shrine clash against each other. The sound of the gong signals the revenge match, and after a long time we will once again witness the ultimate showdown between the King of Curses and the strongest sorcerer. This time, however, Yuta has only 5 minutes to deal the finishing blow. Man, this chapter is really insane. Now, I know Sukuna versus Yuta and Gojo's body is a must-watch, but aren't you curious about what will happen if Todo and Yuji also join the fight? Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts below. Gege will have a well-deserved break next week, so we must wait a little longer for the next chapter. That said, thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Press the like and subscribe button if you enjoy this chapter coverage. That's all for now, JJK fans. See you in the next review.